may have noticed Amish moving into your neighborhood. Could there be a million Amish by the year 2050? At the beginning of the last century, in the year 1900, there were only about 5,000 Old Order Amish. Today's Amish population is around 385,000 people. If we do just some very rough calculations, we use a doubling time of 22 years based on current trends, and I'm going to talk about that and what might change it in a minute. 3 things that we kind of assume that may or may not change. So if we use that figure, once we get to the year 2045, the Amish population would be right around 760, 770,000 people. If you do that again, you're going to have around 1.5 million Amish by the year, say 2066, 2067, 40 some years from now. So that just gives you an idea of how fast they're growing. When will the Amish cross the 1 million person mark? Based on these numbers, it looks like it will happen sometime in the 2050s. We'll have over 1 million Amish. So these are the things we'd have to assume for that growth to continue. One would be having no major external disruptions to the Amish. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the past, there have been times, many times, when the Amish have encountered, let's say, liberalizing trends, which eventually led them to not be Amish. They ended up becoming Mennonite or Amish Mennonite or a different type of religious group, but they left what we would recognize as the old order Amish culture, ways, traditions of today. They left that behind at some points in the past, usually due to different external religious influences. And it's happened quite a few times in Amish history, notably in the mid-1800s. Another thing that could disrupt the Amish is economic pressure. Now, the Amish used to, in large part, farm. Due to farmland becoming very expensive in some places, Amish had to adapt and they went into small businesses. They've proven themselves to be adaptive when there are economic pressures, but there's no guarantee that that will continue indefinitely. Although I would be pretty confident that the Amish will figure out a way to remain Amish, but still be able to make a living in ways that don't compromise their identity. But there's always that possibility out there. Technology is another one. Will acceptance of technology erode what it means to be Amish to the point that large numbers of Amish become something else, whatever that is? I don't know what that is, but something different. So we have to assume there'd be no major external disruptions like that would disrupt the growth path. Number 2, the next assumption would be that the Amish birth rate stays about the same. Currently, it varies by community. In some communities, they'll have a rate of about 6 children, some at 7, 8. There are even some communities where the average family size is 9 children, well above what the norm is in North America. A big part of that is because the Amish do not use artificial birth control. And it's not the case that every Amish couple doesn't use birth control, but that's the norm among the Amish. There are religious reasons and beliefs for that, and that's pretty ingrained. Amish believe in having large families. They consider their children blessings. That aspect of Amish life, I wouldn't expect to change, that valuing of large families. It also fits with their culture and the type of, the ways they make a living. You know, when they're, a dairy farm, a lot of hands are useful on a dairy farm for all the different tasks. Same thing with small businesses as well. So the third assumption here would be that the Amish youth continue to join the church at about the same rate that they do now. Again, varies by group, but 80-90% is a kind of a ballpark figure. In some groups, you'll have even 90-95% of the youth join. In some groups, it's less than 80%, but around 85% choose to be baptized and to continue in an Amish way of life. And most Amish who choose to be baptized remain Amish, although that's not always the case. So that'd be another assumption that there wouldn't be something that would cause a lot of Amish people to leave the church, but that probably fits into my assumption number 1 in this list. Just would have to assume that the Amish church remains attractive to enough young people. And part of that is tied into being able to make a living in the church. Because if you can't make a living in the church, you can't have a family, you can't support yourself, then it becomes tempting to leave the Amish to go to a church or a situation where you can have more technology in order to be able to make a living. Not all communities, but many communities have been pretty adaptive to the economic pressures, realities, whatever you want to call it. Amish today are doing a lot greater variety of jobs and careers, if you want to call it, than the Amish of 50, 60, 70 years ago. And that's a testament to their ability to change. Some people assume that the Amish don't change. That's kind of the big stereotype or the myth, is that they reject change or they reject all new things, which simply isn't the case. They just change at a slower pace compared to non-Amish America, and with a little more thought behind what technologies and innovations they're going to accept and what the potential consequences of those can be. I remember meeting an Amishman this is probably 15 years ago or so, in Lancaster County, who was also fascinated by this topic, probably more than I am even, because it's his own people. He showed me some calculations he had done on the back of a piece of paper, demonstrating the same thing I've talked about in this video. I also came across an article kind of way back when, where the author used similar calculations to predict in the ballpark of 7 million Amish by the year 2100. That's kind of mind-blowing if you think about it. 7 million Amish would actually be more than the current population of 35 U.S. states. That would be a lot of buggies on the road. You also think about the implications of that for road traffic and safety, and how that would affect the situation of both Amish and their non-Amish neighbors. But of course, predicting the future is always fraught with peril. There are many things that could happen, so we can't assume that the Amish will necessarily continue on this growth rate. So I hope you enjoyed this look at what for me is a very interesting topic. Just remember what a smart person once said: it's tough to make predictions, especially about the future. I'll leave you with that, and I'll see you next time.